Yeah, so round 26 was, how can you say, uneven, wasn't it, really? I mean, there's teams that just haven't performed this year and there's teams that are high-flying. They all seem to be playing each other this weekend, and it just made for a really lopsided round of Super League. London and Catalan did preserve
that was a close game.
Yeah, they saved the round pretty much because other than that, yeah, the games are incredibly one-sided. You've got the results in front of you.
So Wigan beat Leeds 38-0, one of 3 teams to be nilled last week. Saints 40 points to 4 against Castleford. Lee also nilled, beat 24 points by Hull KR. Catalan 12-8, which is the only sort of nail biter in the Super League this week. And then Huddersfield nilled by Warrington by 66 points. That's huge. And then Hull managed to get a try on the board, but were beat 58 points to 4 by Salford.
Yeah, I mean, Huddersfield and Hull pretty much they've shut up shop, haven't they? They've been like this for weeks. And Lee was a surprising one. Didn't expect them to get nilled, especially as we start approaching the playoffs, because they've been playing pretty well. I think they just came up against a Hull KR team who were absolutely flying at the minute. What's the conclusion from it, though?
I don't know what to take from it, other than lots of people are sort of saying that, you know, this has been without doubt the closest Super League that we've had, and I would tend to agree with that. It doesn't suggest that doesn't mean that there was there wasn't skill and great performances on show. They really were.
Yeah.
What it does sort of suggest to me is there's like 4 or 5 teams that are peaking just at the right time as they're heading to the playoffs. So it's going to make an interesting playoffs for sure.
One thing that has come to debate amongst a lot of fans, though, this week is there's no relegation there.
Yeah.
So for teams like Hull FC, Huddersfield, Castleford, doing that sort of, they're not making the playoffs. They're not going to get relegated. They've essentially got nothing left to play for other than a bit of pride, and you would have thought they'd keep turning up for the fans. Once that jeopardy goes away, they don't have to panic, do they? They're just starting, they're building for next season. But yeah, that is the downside of having IMG gradings in place, where what happens on the pitch doesn't affect what's happening, what's going to the season, really.
Well, it does. I mean, they're going to either pick up or lose IMG points, aren't they? Depending on where they finish in the table. So there is a little bit of something.
It's really minimum, and you're still going to be getting more IMG points than a team that's potentially been in the Championship who hasn't shut up shop early. So that is a massive downside of the grading system, I think.
Yeah. No, I kind of agree. So just, 5 blowout scores, 3 teams nilled. Just a real strange round.
Yeah, but I suppose it's easy to focus on the negatives, isn't it? And I mean, that's what everybody does. They always focus on the negatives. But as you said at the start of this piece, it's been a really competitive Super League season, and we haven't had many games like this, unless you've been watching Hull FC all season. Fortunately, they've been on the end of quite a few of these. But it has been a great season of Super League, so I don't think we should look into it in too much detail. However, it's going to happen at some point, isn't it?
Well, there are some teams that their position will boil down to points difference.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It could be sort of...
You could argue, in fact, that these scorelines actually made the final week of Super League a little bit more interesting, because Hull FC, again, they conceded that many points. They actually took London above them in the Super League table. So I think London are on -545 and Hull are on -546. So there's literally a point between those two. Going into the final round of Super League to determine who finishes bottom of the table. However, again, it has no bearing on what actually happens, because what happens on the field this year, it doesn't miss no significance.
Well, let me just run these teams past you, and you just answer whether they've got something to play for or not. Because just looking at so first of all, Leeds, anything to play for or not?
Yes, mathematically, can still get into the playoffs.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Cass.
No.
Lee.
Yes, playing for a playoff place. Big game this weekend.
Huddersfield?
No.
And then finally, Hull. See, and you sort of said, it's like almost some teams have shut up shop. I think they're trying hard. I think that just those top teams have kicked in at the point where it's crucial.
Yeah, you think the difference between the top of the Super League and the bottom is that vast these days.
Yeah, and I just think Lee had a bit of a shitter.
One thing
against a great team.
One thing I would say, it is a shame that we're not going to have promotion and relegation, because I think there's teams at the top end of the Championship now.
Yeah, they would.
If we had that middle eights format this year, it would be a really interesting format. I think Toulouse, Wakefield are obviously playing really well at the minute. You could throw Bradford in the mix. That would have made a real good middle eights this year.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're going around in circles as we always do in rugby league. It is what it is, I think. Don't take anything away from the Super League season. It has been a great season. But yeah, this is what happens when promotion and relegation is removed from the table. You essentially get some teams to just start building for next year.
So lots of different scenarios that could play out in the Super League. So check out our prediction show that we release on Monday. Yeah, and we talk more in depth about each team and what their prospects are.